I used to get frustrated by the fact that I knew all of these principles and techniques about web design, but I struggled to land clients and have a meaningful impact on their online presence. But something to remember when selling just about anything is that people buy a product because it solves their problem. Now, their problem could be that they just need a website, but generally that's just the surface. What I failed to realize is that the real issue they face goes deeper than that. And in this video, we'll cover how to solve those issues and land more clients in the process. Most business owners have a pretty consistent need. They either need more customers or clients. If you could design a website that brings them in more clientele, they'll pay you as much as the value you provide. This whole idea of you, the business owner, give me, the designer, a small amount of money, and in return my services will make you a large amount of money, is the core theme for most social media marketing, advertising, and creative agencies. Notice how this all has very little to do with your actual design skills. Sure, humans are visual creatures, and if your website looks bad, people won't buy it. But even if it looks good and serves no purpose, people still won't buy it. Now you might be thinking, wow Kole, that's rich, considering your last not one, not two, but 3 videos have all been about making appealing designs. But I say, why can't we have our cake and eat it too? Whether you love them or hate them, you gotta admit that Apple's website both solves problems and looks good while doing it. Google, however, is the prime example of being the opposite as designers. Up until recently, the actual visuals of their website were just okay, but they served their purpose impeccably, so no one really cared. Same idea with a website. Your client will probably judge your website mostly on looks, but the actual users of that site will care much more about the functionality. I visit these image compression websites all the time, and do I care that there are ads literally everywhere? Not in the slightest. If it compresses my image and does so in a timely fashion, I couldn't care less. I think we as designers forget that at the end of the day, we're building a product for the end user, not the client. And so we would benefit to think about things more from a marketing standpoint than a creative standpoint. As an example, a client I'm working with at the moment is a boutique retailer with literally hundreds of products on her site. And so if you were to niche down into that industry specifically, here's what it would look like. I help boutique businesses update and organize their website through the use of a CMS and modern design techniques. Notice how that talked about the website as a solution, but not really the problem. The problem is the crazy amount of products and difficulty navigating for customers, presumably leading to a drop in sales. The solution, while in the form of a website, is actually a refined search system and recategorizing her products to make things more intuitive for the user. Notice how this focuses more on the UX side of things than UI. And I think you'll find as you work with more clients, they care much more about the UI side of things. But in order to get results, you need to focus more on UX. That's why ClickFunnels and similar sites work so well. This isn't a particularly beautiful website, but is all the information clearly laid out? Yes. And do I know where to click next? Also yes. Now, as a designer and a problem solver, we could niche down to provide service to boutique websites, as per our last example. Or we could niche down on the problem itself and focus on websites with large collections of products and organizational issues. Regardless of what niche the client is in, you'll always be equipped to handle that specific problem. This, of course, extends past just websites. And sometimes the additional services that you provide are what really help to sell the client. Let's tackle another example here. Let's say Joe here is super famous and has a website with millions of visitors where he sells his merch. Joe hires you to redesign his site. You can either offer SEO or conversion rate optimization. Which do you choose? Well, extra SEO is never a bad thing. But with a website that's already getting so many clicks, conversion rate optimization is the clear choice out of the two. This is probably something Joe would be willing to pay extra for, since a marginal gain in the amount of sales at this scale makes Joe a ton of extra money. These additional services that are semi-related to web design and also help to solve the client's core problem are a fantastic way to add extra value. To give you some ideas, extra services could include SEO and CRO, like we just discussed, social media content creation, blog posts, email marketing, paid marketing, and even a retainer for future design services. Now, we've been diving pretty heavy into the marketing side of things, so let's bring it back to design for a second. We don't need millionaire clients or giant boutique websites in order to solve a problem. For example, thinking about how to lay out a site that will make the most sense for the user is a perfect example of UX. Deciding to have a testimonial section displayed on the homepage of an agency, or a list of all the beneficial things a nonprofit has done in the last year, are both clear choices in order to get more clients or donations for each organization. Now, if you can do all these things for a client, that's fantastic. But as we move from designing websites to solving problems, we need to change the way we display our work too. Just displaying the website is no longer enough. We need to show that we actually solved their problem. Little case studies or proof of concepts about how you achieved your results are what's going to really sell your services to future clients. A super brief outline from our boutique store from earlier might look something like this. Firstly, let's list out the services we provided to them, and then we need to define the problem. This often has to do with losing customers on the process to converting them, but it doesn't always have to be. And finally, present the solution along with numerical evidence whenever possible. Presenting undeniable results of what you can achieve is the single best sales pitch. And that brings us onto analytics. Most modern website builders have analytics built in, even if they are pretty basic. But if you're just the designer, how are you going to get your hands on the analytics? Well, I definitely advocate for either being able to code a website or use one of the many website builders out there so you can offer both design and development to your client. Unless you're working on a fairly complex project, no one really wants to coordinate between a designer and a developer. They want to talk to one person who's going to build their website from start to finish, which solves yet another problem, their lack of time. The point here is that if you develop their website, you'll have access to their analytics as long as they don't kick you off, which means you can view before and after you implemented your new design to see if you had any consequential impact. Most clients I've found are amenable to leaving you on as admin as long as you're providing an additional service to them, or if you set your permissions to view only. I want to note that this can also be done beforehand with UX testing, but often the sample sizes you can muster are just too small to have any significance. All this talk about analytics isn't super common for designers, is it? But if you really want to get down to how to provide value for a business and get them to buy websites from you, your goal at the end of the day should be to keep visitors on your site for longer and drive more sales or signups, in addition to designing a beautiful website. Lastly, let me just add that I don't think that websites that solve a problem and websites that look good are two independent things. Often, designs that look good are perceived as being easier to use, and it can be a tool in itself to keep visitors on your site for longer. This phenomenon is called the aesthetics usability effect, and it is in fact real. Look it up. Obviously, at the end of the day, your goal shouldn't be one or the other, but a combination of both. If you're interested to learn more about analytics and business analysis, drop a thumbs up and I'll make a video about it. Now go out there and solve some problems. Thanks for watching.